I'm really excited about our next guest. We're going to talk to some candidates who are looking to go, one of them to keep a House seat red and one of them to flip a House seat to red, which is very important to getting some common sense back in Springfield, Illinois, so it can emanate throughout the course of the state. A reminder, at 1:25, we're going to do Ask Us Anything, so your YouTube questions, if you want to know what we think about something, or if you want a question answered, you go to the Any Fry YouTube channel and leave it there, and then Ryan's got us with X's and O's at 2 o'clock. So, our next guests that we have here at the Illinois State GOP Convention in Madison County, Illinois, at the GOP Convention Center in Collinsville, we are happy to welcome back to the show Regan Deering, who's a candidate for Illinois' 88th State House District. She ran in the congressional 13th last year and came up a little short, but they drew that district very, very much so for Nikki Budzinski, who ended up winning. You put up a great fight, though, Regan. It was your first foray into politics at that magnitude, certainly.
Yeah, that's correct.
So now you are running in the 88th State House District, which Dan Calkins, who's been on this show before, I've done events with Dan many times, is retiring. You won your primary, and now you are looking to make sure that House seat is going to stay red. You don't have an opponent?
That's correct.
And so it's looking like it's going to be Regan Deering in the State House, which is fantastic. Now, when it comes to not having opponents to run against, we are very excited to welcome Jay Keevan, who is the man that we showed up on a Wednesday morning. Was it a Thursday morning?
Thursday morning. It was this 2nd of May. I won't forget the day.
2nd of May. You remember that whole situation where I'm on the Mark Cox Morning Show begging you to come out to a Holiday Inn Express in Edwardsville if you were in Katie Stewart's district, the 112th district, and to sign a document. It's not a vote for Jay Keevan. It's just an opportunity for him to even appear on the ballot because the Democrats said, Katie Stewart, Democrat, stooge for the Chicago Democrats, in the 112th district here in the Metro East, doesn't have a Republican opponent on the ballot. Let's do everything we can to make sure she doesn't have to run a race. And they did some dirty Democrat tricks, as they're apt to do, tried to make sure the Republicans couldn't slate a candidate who they had already filed the paperwork, the necessary paperwork to engage in that process in Jay Keevan. And we beat them at their own dirty little tricks. We beat them at their game here in Madison County, and that's one of the reasons why the Illinois State Convention is here. It's because of you folks. It's because of the people here who have been engaged, plugged in, and given the Republicans a chance to show how common sense can win. So, Jay, I'm going to start with you. Regan, you said that you were watching this unfold from afar, a little bit more north. What was it like? We're going to let him tell the story here, but what was it like to see what the Democrats did, and you roll your eyes because you expect this from the Illinois State Democrats, and then to see the 48 hours commence where Jay Keevan was able to get his name on the ballot?
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching, having run in the 13th and been a presence and a candidate for voters in Madison County. I've definitely stayed connected, and so I thought, oh man, this is going to be quite the obstacle. But I was so proud of Madison County and the people that were engaged and ready to get Jay across the finish line and, like you said, beat him at their own game. So I was excited to see people traveling to Madison County to support him, other candidates. It really said a lot about the Republican Party in that we can come together and stick together well.
So let's get to the candidate, Jay Keevan, in the 112th district, where you're running against Katie Stewart. Jay, you and I had not met before about 7 a.m. at a hotel parking lot in Edwardsville, but I had heard about you, and I knew that you had served, my recollection is 27 years with the Illinois State Police.
That's correct.
You were 8 years as the chief of police in Edwardsville?
I was.
And you're the city administrator for Troy?
I'm city administrator in Troy right now. I've
Yes.
been there for about 3 years.
Yes, thank you. For me. That
That's for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't even make that up. That's real. So you are a public servant. I assume that you believe in law and order. And then you thought, I think I'm going to throw my name in the hat to challenge Katie Stewart. You're doing the thing. You're going through the process. And word gets to you that they're trying to keep you off the ballot. Take us from there through the process of the mad dash to Springfield, Illinois.
Well, we got notified Wednesday afternoon that the House had passed a bill to keep any of the slated candidates off the ballot. So Wednesday I took off work and went out and we started getting more signatures. And I think probably by Thursday morning we were probably up to about 350-ish signatures. which was well short of what we needed.
So this is May 2nd?
This was May 1st.
May 1st.
We were notified.
You had about 350 signatures.
We had about 350, and that was 8:30 at night. We're counting up to see what we have, and it's like, well, we're still a little bit short. So we're knowing that this bill is going to the Senate. We're knowing that they're going to vote on it quickly, and we are also knowing that as soon as this bill is passed, the governor's intent is to sign it.
Yeah.
And it would keep slated candidates off the ballot. So. Obviously, I owe a great debt of gratitude to your listeners and certainly to the folks from the 112th that came out. I've never seen anything like it. So typically when I would get off of work in an evening time, I'd walk the neighborhoods for about 2 hours, and I could get about 15 signatures in that time frame.
2 hours, 15 signatures.
2 hours, 15 signatures. That was my goal each night when I'd get off of work. And that's about what I would bring in. And then obviously there were others helping walk and getting signatures as well. But during that time frame, so about 6:45 in the morning, I got to the Holiday Inn Express, and I had my little J. Keevan for Representative sign. I set up, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, God, I hope some people come, because we need 150, and probably more than that, because obviously there'll be signatures that are challenged. And a little bit before 7, you came, and I met with you, and you said, hey, we're gonna get this across the finish line. And to tell you the truth, I had some doubts, because it's a lot of signatures in a brief amount of time. But when 7 o'clock came and the first car came through, and then the next car came through, and then before long there were 4 cars or 5 cars stacked up waiting to sign that petition from people from the 112th, it's like, we are going to get this across the finish line. As a matter of fact, I filed 843 signatures.
Wow, that's awesome.
Fantastic. So, you were saying off air a little bit there that, well, first of all, I know that you're not a career politician in any way, shape, or form. You've spent time in law enforcement, like I said, as a public servant in that capacity. When you decide to put your name on a ballot, Regan, I'll ask you this, and we'll come back to your thoughts on this, Jay. Regan, you ran for Congress last year and redistricted. Nobody really knows what's going to happen after a redistrict. How's it feel initially? I mean, I'm sure there's some excitement, but I got to think that you don't really 100% know what you're getting yourself into.
Well, I'll tell you what, I applaud Jay and his efforts too, and I think the people of Illinois are really ready for your average citizen to be engaged in politics. I mean, we're asking for people for signatures to put us on the ballot and get there, and I think that the Republicans in certainly central and southern Illinois are fired up this year. And so it feels good. Obviously, there is talk about being in the super minority when going to the Capitol, but there's good energy, and we have a common sense agenda. And I think that is going to show up in November. I applaud people like Jay, and others across the state that are trying to flip these seats, because although I'm in a safe seat, I'm only going to be as good as the other Republicans that I'm serving with, and those numbers really matter. It's a numbers game in the Capitol right now. So, although I won't have a challenger in November, I have given my commitment to the party. I will drive anywhere in the state to knock doors, to show up for people, to talk about events, because we've got to stay together and we've got to put up a strong showing in November up and down the ballot.
Yeah, Regan Deering here. She will be the Illinois 88th State House District Representative without a challenger on the November ballot. She ran for Congress last year, ran a good campaign. So I'm glad to see her name back in the game. Jay Keevan here with us also, who is the Republican that, with your help, Annie Fry Show 97.1 listeners, we were able to, Mark Cox Show morning show listeners as well, because I did that hit on the morning show on 97.1, and people, there was somebody, we're standing in Edwardsville. It's like the Holiday Inn Express, right by like Sonic and the Edwardsville High School and everything. I had somebody say, I was on my way to work, Jay. I was on my way to work. I was at the racetrack. I mean, that's almost Missouri. He goes, and I heard that Jay needed signatures, and I turned my car around, and I'm here. That is a commitment to turn around, I assume at about 203, Highway 203 or whatever, and come back and sign a paper for you. You were saying before we started this segment here, you were talking a little bit about what it was like to stand out in front of that hotel at 6:45 a.m. with your sign and your clipboard. What were you thinking in that moment when you were like, I've got a steep hill to climb today?
Well, it's a very lonely position to be standing there alone and wondering whether or not you're going to get across that finish line. And I will tell you that as a public servant for my entire adult life, I love public service. I mean, I truly do. I like helping people. I like working through issues. I like solving problems. The night before, I learned that political service can be quite different, and especially here in the state of Illinois and the folks that we're up against. And it's, obviously it's not always a fair playing field. So I will tell you, I was a little bit disheartened, but at the same token, I thought, I'm in it. It's the next step.
Yeah.
So the next step, we got to get these petitions signed, and then we got to get filed, and then we got to get on the ballot. So it was just always working towards that next step. But there was about a 15-minute period there where you kind of felt like the loneliest guy in town because you're standing there with your clipboard waiting for cars to come and just praying that they're going to come.
Yeah.
And our prayers were answered. They did come, and they came. Like I said, sometimes 4 and 5 deep of cars, but I think people are just tired. I think they're tired of the same old nonsense, and I think they thought it may be time for a change. So that gives me hope that I think our voters are going to come out strong, and I think that the Republican Party voters are going to say, okay, hey, enough's enough. It's time to make this district red again.
It's very well said. We're speaking with Jay Keevan here, who is looking to represent the 112th State House District, running against Katie Stewart, an installed and funded Chicago Democrat in Madison County. Has nothing to do with what the people of Madison County want. It's a purple district, and she's told what she's going to vote, how she's going to vote, and she's happy to follow those orders, and we need a change in the 112th. And I think Jay Keevan is absolutely the person to do this because you have shown me, and I mean, everybody who speaks of you speaks so well of your humble nature and your service. But I think that it's really important for people to understand, specifically about you, Jay Keevan, in this particular race, is that what you were able to see, especially that morning, is that you represent all of those people who were in their cars on their way to work. They were listening to the radio in their home during breakfast on 97.1 and heard the conversation we had on the Mark Cox Morning Show, and they sprung to action to do this. And, yes, they did it for you, but they were doing it for themselves, and you were doing this for them. And when we send representatives to Springfield, when we send them to Jefferson City in Missouri, when we send them to Washington, D.C., every single time it gets inverted and the government starts feeling like they're there to tell us how to live, that's when we need to push back. And Illinois has not had the opportunity to have people really looking to tell the government what to do because we are so inundated with the government, the overly bloated supermajority of Democrats in Springfield, telling people how to live their life, what they're going to do, how we're going to refer to offenders I wonder as a law enforcement officer, what you think about, what is it, justice impacted individuals or whatever. The level of nonsense that they can dabble in because there are no checks and balances is absurd. And your seat, Jay Keevan, in the 112th, and those people who heard that you needed support and that the 112th district might not even have a Republican challenger on the ballot because Katie Stewart herself voted for the bill to make sure she wouldn't have an opponent. This is Katie Stewart's action. This is her doing. She doesn't want to compete. When you show up to support Jay Keevan, when you show up to make sure that we in full force send not just Katie Stewart a message, but every single Chicago Democrat who has installed their operation in our territory in Madison County, and we're not playing these silly games anymore. Your support for Jay Keevan is the reaction that the Democrats need to hear across the state. Regan, when you were running for Congress, when you are, working to pay it forward because you don't have an opponent right now in your district, what is it that people can do to really impact the outcome in November? Average people listening right now, where do they go? What do they do?
Well, they absolutely need to make sure they're registered to vote, and they need to show up and make their ballot count, whether that's, in person, by mail, early voting. All the things need to happen for Republicans this cycle. And you need to talk to your friends and neighbors about how important this election is up and down the ballot. I mean, people need name ID like Jay Keevan. They need to know that they have an opportunity to put someone into office that is in fact going to work for them. When I'm out on the trail, that's all I hear. This economy is crushing us. No one's paying attention to us. No one's working for us. And when you have people that are public servants like Jay who are willing to step up to the plate. I mean, I'm hopeful that you have heard also a lot of thank yous.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting yourself out there. Thank you for putting your name on the ballot. It's not easy, but it takes friends and worker bees. It takes dollars. It takes momentum. And so everyone can have a role to play. I mean, even if you might host a coffee in your home for Jay, get your like-minded friends, get your unlike-minded friends to know that we are real people as candidates. It's not just what you read in the paper. Lies and untruths are told often by the other side, especially when you're a threat. And I think that Katie Stewart and her fellow Democrats recognize that Jay has got a great opportunity to show up and represent people here in the 112th district. And so everyone can do something. I applaud all the people that showed up and did signatures. Now it's, opening your door, because we're going to show up and we're going to be door knocking. So opening your door, putting a sign in your yard, being able to make a contribution potentially to the campaign, so we can buy more signs, we can get pieces in the mail, and people can be informed and be educated.
It's very well said. Regan Deering, who will be, she's taking the place of Dan Calkins because she was elected in the Illinois primary, doesn't have a Democrat challenger. Last question before we have to run here. Jay Keevan, I think that I think Madison County is a purple district, definitely trending red, but I think that the constituents have had enough of what the Democrats have done to Madison County. You're going to have to, if you get elected, represent Republicans. You're going to have to represent Democrats. I actually do believe, especially in Madison County, very familiar as a resident of Madison County myself, that those voters agree on a lot more than they disagree. And I see the left always trying to inflame the most divisive parts of who we are as people, because the Democrats win when we hate each other. If you go to Springfield and you're representing people in a purple district, what does that look like to you to represent your voters in Springfield against the Democrat machine that is there?
Well, I think it's we use the term common sense quite often, and that common sense starts with ethical government. You have to have ethical leadership. And unfortunately, when you have one-party control, as we do, and I mean complete control with a supermajority,
top to bottom,
there is, in my opinion, there's that potential for corruption. And I think that's why you see, we have a former Speaker of the House that has been indicted, that's going to be going to trial this fall. That's a horrible stain on our state because we don't have that ethical leadership. So I tell you, I think people expect ethical leadership. They expect you to support public safety. They expect you to support the police and not empower the criminals. I had Tom Hain, the state's attorney, when I decided to run for office, and he reached out to me and he said, Jay, we should, as government, we should punish criminals and we should empower taxpayers. Ugh. And he said, somehow in Illinois, we've decided to punish the taxpayers and empower the criminals. And we need to stop that. And we need to get back to common sense laws that support law enforcement, that support the rule of law, and that we don't take this soft on crime approach. For crying out loud, what's it going to cost us to change all the farms to call people justice impaired or justice impacted individuals?
It's as if justice happened to them.
Yeah, I was just standing on the street corner and justice hit me upside the head.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And then the final thing is the cost of living. People understand that. People know what they're paying at the gas pump. They know the taxes are too high. They know property taxes are too high. And it just seems like this out of control spending, because here's my wish list of what I want, but I don't pare it down. Mm-hmm. If you run your household the way we are running our state government budget, you would be broke. You would be broke. And unfortunately, we're broke as a state, and we need to start reeling in spending. We need to do what's realistic. We need to quit wasting money on projects or plans that just don't make sense for the people of our state. So realistically, our district is, as you said, it's a purple district. And, when you go to represent as a citizen legislator, you go to represent everybody within that district, not just the folks that voted for you, but everybody within that district. And I think everybody could use a little bit of relief in the 112 and throughout the state of Illinois.
Amen to that. Jay Keevan, running as the Republican candidate in the 112th because of the action of you, that showed up to help get him on the ballot. The Democrats don't want opponents, and when you have a supermajority, you get to play those reindeer games. And I'm very proud to report that here in Madison County, we beat them at their own games, and the fun has just begun. You need to show up and help support Jay Keevan, support the Illinois Republican Party, and in anywhere, in any place that you feel is appropriate to how it most reflects you. Local government is incredibly important. And the state legislature, you take Katie Stewart out, that is a vote that they can count on the Democrat side no matter what. She's told when she should vote for things and against things, and she's happy to do it. And we need somebody who goes there and represents us, not the party that they serve. Jay Keevan will do that. Regan Deering, we're excited to see and see what you're going to be able to do in the State House. And we're always looking forward to the opportunity to welcome you guys back on the show. Jay Keevan, thank you. Jay Keevan, what's the best way that people can reach out to you or support you or connect with you right now?
Well, they can reach me at my website, which is probably the easiest. It's J4Illinois, so it's JAY, the number 4Illinois.com. They can sign up there to help support the campaign, and they can also make a campaign contribution there at that location if they'd like. They can also follow me. Just look me up on Facebook under Jay Keevan, and then there is a link to the website there as well.
Fantastic. And Regan, how do people connect to you?
I'm Regan for Illinois with the word "for" spelled out, so same social media platforms and a website. It's an opportunity to get engaged. We talk about where we're having events, how you can share great candidates to your folks all over the state. I mean, even though I'm not in Jay's district, I know a lot of people down here who live in Edwardsville, live in Collinsville, and I'm doing my part to say, hey, take a look at this guy. He's going to work for you in your area. So no matter where you are in the state, you have an opportunity to just spread the word about great candidates.
It's time to rally. All hands on deck.
Amen.
No person has nothing to offer. Everybody has something to offer, and we need you. So come be a part of it, because November, it's going to be up to us, and we need to support great people like Jay Keevan and Regan Deering. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, Annie.
Awesome
Thanks
to
for
talk to
having
you
us,
again. Jay Keevan's just one of my favorite memories, and it's a recent one of being able to get those signatures across the line.